Some people might dismiss this message as old or familiar and decide to abandon it before it even begins. This is not merely to entertain you or soothe your mind. I am not saying these words just to pass the time. There is something deeper I want you to consider. My beloved soul, do not make the mistake of dismissing what I am about to share as something trivial or already known. Pay close attention now, because in a moment, a voice may rise within you. A voice reflecting the pain and suffering you have endured in silence, bearing it all alone. You may have thought this pain was yours alone, but you were never truly alone. God was present in the moments nobody witnessed. He was present in the nights when you smiled during the day but cried when everyone was gone. He was present when you encouraged other people while secretly wondering who would encourage you. He was present when you kept going even though something inside you wanted to stop. And perhaps the most remarkable thing about your story is this: despite all you have endured, you did not completely lose your faith. You questioned. You became tired. You became discouraged. There were moments when you didn't understand. But somewhere inside you, a small light continued to burn. And today, I want to speak directly to that light. Because perhaps this season has not been about God forgetting you. Perhaps it has been about preparing you. Perhaps the waiting has been shaping you for something your previous version could not have carried. And perhaps the moment you have been praying for is not simply a moment when circumstances change, but a moment when you change. So breathe. Slow down. Let your heart become quiet. And listen. My beloved child, there were seasons when you looked around and wondered, where is God in all of this? You prayed, but the answer didn't come when you expected. You worked, but the result didn't appear. You loved, but you were not always loved in return. You gave, but sometimes you felt empty. You tried again, only to face another disappointment. And after enough disappointments, something dangerous can happen. You begin to expect disappointment. You stop hoping because hope feels risky. You stop dreaming because dreams can hurt when they don't come true. You stop trusting because trust has been broken too many times. You tell yourself, I don't expect anything anymore. But deep inside, you still hope. There is still a part of you that believes life can become different. There is still a part of you that whispers, God, if you are still there, show me the way. My beloved, perhaps this message is not here to give you every answer. Perhaps it is here to remind you that your unanswered questions do not mean God has stopped working. There are things happening beneath the surface of your life that you cannot yet measure. A seed doesn't look like a tree. A beginning doesn't resemble a finished story. And preparation rarely looks like fulfillment while you're living through it. You may only see dirt. God may see roots. You may only see delay. God may see preparation. You may only see a closed door. God may see protection. You may only see an ending. God may see a beginning. Think about the things you never told anyone. The conversation you replayed in your mind. The rejection you pretended didn't hurt. The relationship you wanted to save. The opportunity you thought would change everything. The disappointment you smiled through. The prayer you stopped talking about because you were tired of explaining why you were still waiting. Nobody may have understood the weight of it, but God saw it. And there is something powerful about knowing that your private struggle was never completely unseen. Every time you chose kindness while you were hurting, it mattered. Every time you refused to become bitter, it mattered. Every time you got back up after being disappointed, it mattered. Every time you prayed when you didn't feel like praying, it mattered. Not because you were earning God's love. You never had to earn that. But because those moments were shaping your character. They were teaching you endurance. They were teaching you discernment. They were teaching you that your strength does not come only from having easy circumstances. Sometimes strength is born when circumstances are difficult. You discovered that you could survive what you once thought would destroy you. You discovered that some people could leave and you would still remain standing. You discovered that some plans could collapse and you could still build again. And perhaps most importantly, you discovered that your identity cannot depend completely on what happens around you. The He Season Isc Changing. My beloved, there is a difference between saying, everything will suddenly become perfect, and saying, I am ready to face my next season with faith. The second one is where true transformation begins, because a new season doesn't always mean fewer challenges. Sometimes it means stronger shoulders. Sometimes God doesn't immediately remove the mountain. He teaches you how to climb it. Sometimes He doesn't instantly change the circumstances. He changes your perspective. And suddenly, the thing that once terrified you doesn't control you anymore. You begin to say, I can face this. I can learn from this. I can keep going. I don't have to understand everything to trust God. That is growth. And perhaps you have grown more than you realize. Look at the person you were a few years ago. You are not the same. The things that once controlled you may no longer have the same power. The people whose approval once defined your happiness may no longer control your identity. The things you once chased may no longer satisfy you. Why? Because you have been changing. Quietly, slowly, painfully, beautifully. There are doors you prayed would open, and they didn't. At the time, it felt like rejection. But what if some of those doors were never supposed to become your destination? What if the relationship you wanted would have taken you away from your peace? What if the opportunity you wanted would have placed you in an environment that slowly destroyed your confidence? What if the path you demanded would have given you success but stolen something more valuable? You don't know, and you may never know completely. But you can choose to trust that a closed door does not automatically mean a ruined future. Sometimes the most painful no becomes the beginning of the most important yes. Yes to growth, yes to healing, yes to wisdom, yes to a healthier life, yes to purpose, yes to God. So don't spend the rest of your life standing in front of a door that has already closed. Learn what you need to learn. Take what you need to take. Then turn around. There is still a road ahead. Stop measuring your life by someone else's timeline. My child, comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose gratitude for your own journey. You look at someone else's life and think, they are already there. Why am I still here? They found love. They found success. They found their purpose. What is wrong with me? Nothing. Your journey is simply different. A tree does not apologize because another tree grew taller first. A sunrise does not compete with the moon. A river does not compare its path with another river. Creation moves according to its own design, and you are not required to become someone else in order to have a meaningful life. Your timeline may be slower than you expected. That doesn't make it worthless. Your progress may be invisible to other people. That doesn't make it insignificant. You may be building quietly. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. Some of the most important transformations happen where nobody is watching. Your next chapter requires a different you. Listen carefully. You cannot enter a new chapter while continuously rehearsing the identity of the old one. If you keep telling yourself, I'm unlucky, you will begin interpreting everything through that belief. If you keep saying, nobody values me, you may tolerate people who don't respect you simply because their treatment feels familiar. If you keep saying, I always fail, you may stop trying before the opportunity has a chance to develop. Your thoughts matter. Your words matter. Your choices matter. This doesn't mean pretending everything is wonderful. It means refusing to let temporary circumstances become permanent definitions. You can say, this is difficult, but I am not defeated. I made a mistake, but I am not a mistake. I was rejected, but I am not worthless. I am waiting, but I am not forgotten. I don't know what comes next, but I will keep walking. That is a different kind of strength. Not loud, not arrogant, not desperate, just steady. My beloved, perhaps you look at your past and see wasted years. But look again. The years taught you. The failures taught you. The heartbreak taught you. The waiting taught you. The silence taught you. The responsibilities taught you. The difficult people taught you boundaries. The disappointments taught you discernment. The lonely seasons taught you how to sit with yourself. The mistakes taught you humility. None of this means you should romanticize pain. Pain is painful. Loss is loss. Disappointment is real. But God can take something painful and bring meaning from it. He can take a scar and turn it into compassion. He can take a failure and turn it into wisdom. He can take a closed door and use it to redirect your footsteps. He can take the chapter you wanted to erase and make it part of the testimony you someday use to encourage somebody else. Your past does not have to be wasted. There is something frightening about a new beginning. You know what you lost. You don't yet know what you will gain. You know the old environment. The new one is unfamiliar. You know the old routine. The new chapter has no map. And this is where fear says, go back. But familiar is not always better. Familiar can simply mean familiar. You can be familiar with something unhealthy. You can be comfortable in something that is limiting you. You can become accustomed to a life that was never designed to hold your full potential. So don't confuse familiarity with destiny. Sometimes you have to become uncomfortable before you become free. Sometimes you have to leave the old conversation to hear a new voice. Sometimes you have to step away from constant noise to recognize what your heart has been trying to tell you. And sometimes, the next step is simply, keep going. Now we come to the heart of this message. You have been waiting for a moment when everything makes sense. A moment when you can finally say, now I understand. But perhaps that moment doesn't begin when every question receives an answer. Perhaps it begins when you stop allowing unanswered questions to control your peace. Maybe the moment you have been waiting for is the moment you decide, I will trust God again. Not because everything is perfect, not because you have proof of every future outcome, but because you have survived enough to know that fear cannot be your permanent guide. Maybe this is your turning point, not necessarily because something dramatic happens tomorrow, but because something changes inside you today. You stop begging for what isn't yours. You stop chasing people who don't choose you. You stop living in yesterday. You stop punishing yourself for mistakes you have already learned from. You stop measuring your worth by applause. You stop allowing fear to make every decision. And you begin walking with a quiet confidence. Whatever comes next, I will face it with God. That is a powerful place to stand. My beloved child, be careful about creating such a specific picture of your future that you become unable to recognize the blessing when it arrives differently. You may think your breakthrough must look like money. It may look like peace. You may think it must look like a new relationship. It may look like finally becoming comfortable alone. You may think it must look like a promotion. It may look like discovering a completely different calling. You may think the blessing is something God will place in your hands. Perhaps the deeper blessing is something He is building inside your heart. Wisdom, peace, discipline, confidence, compassion, self-control, courage, a stronger relationship with Him. These things may not look impressive on social media, but they can transform an entire life. If you've fallen, begin again. If you've lost your way, begin again. If you've made a terrible decision, learn from it and begin again. If you've spent years afraid, begin again. If you've been disappointed, begin again. If you stopped believing in yourself, begin again. Your next chapter does not require you to pretend the previous chapters never happened. It simply asks you not to remain trapped inside them. You are allowed to grow beyond your past. You are allowed to become wiser. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to establish boundaries. You are allowed to pursue something new. You are allowed to hope again. And you are allowed to believe that your life can still carry meaning. A prayer for your next season. My beloved child, wherever you are right now, pause for a moment. Take a slow breath and let us pray. Father, meet this person exactly where they are. You know the battles they don't talk about. You know the questions they carry. You know the disappointment behind their smile. You know the dreams they have buried because they became afraid to hope. Give them wisdom for the next step. Give them courage to release what needs to be released. Give them discernment to recognize what is healthy and what is harmful. Give them patience when the road becomes slow. Give them strength when disappointment returns. Give them peace that is not dependent on perfect circumstances. And when a new door appears, give them the courage to walk through it wisely. Help them not to chase what you are asking them to release. Help them not to fear what you are asking them to embrace. And above everything, help them remember that their worth does not rise and fall with circumstances. Let their heart become steady. Let their faith become deeper. Let their life become a reflection of love, wisdom, courage, and purpose. Amen. My beloved. Before you leave this message, remember this. You don't have to know exactly what tomorrow holds. You only need to know that tomorrow is not required to look like yesterday. Your story can change. Your habits can change. Your relationships can change. Your direction can change. Your understanding can change. And with God's guidance, your heart can become stronger than the circumstances that once overwhelmed it. So don't give up, because you cannot see the whole picture. A sunrise does not reveal the entire day at once. Light comes gradually. One ray, then another, and suddenly, the darkness is no longer in charge. Maybe that is what is happening in your life. A little light is entering. A little hope is returning. A little courage is awakening. And perhaps you are realizing, I am not where I used to be. That matters. Celebrate the small changes. Celebrate the fact that you kept going. Celebrate the prayer you prayed today. Celebrate the boundary you finally established. Celebrate the forgiveness you chose. Celebrate the courage it took to start again. You don't have to wait until everything is perfect to recognize that God has already been working within you. My beloved soul, the moment you have been waiting for may not arrive with a dramatic announcement. It may begin quietly, with a decision, a surrender, a prayer, a step, a change in perspective, a willingness to trust again. So when you leave this message, don't simply return to your old thoughts. Carry this truth with you. You are not forgotten. Your waiting has not made you worthless. Your rejection has not defined you. Your closed doors have not canceled your future. Your mistakes have not erased your purpose. And your present circumstances do not have the authority to tell you how your entire story will end. There is still more ahead. So stand up in faith. Open your heart to wisdom. Release what is behind you. And take the next step. Not 10 steps. Not the entire journey. Just the next step. And when tomorrow comes, take another, then another. Until one day you look back and realize that the road you were afraid to walk became the road that changed everything. My beloved child, the story is not over. This is not the end. This is a new beginning. And if your heart received even one word from this message, write in the comments, God, I trust your timing. Let it be your personal declaration that you will not allow fear to write the ending of your story. And if someone you love is going through a difficult season, share this message with them. They may need this reminder today more than you realize. If you want to continue receiving faith-filled messages that encourage you through seasons of waiting, uncertainty, healing, and new beginnings, subscribe and stay connected. Not because you are afraid of missing something supernatural, but because sometimes we all need a reminder to keep our hearts pointed toward God. My beloved child, take a breath. Release yesterday. Trust today. And walk into tomorrow with faith. What is ahead may be different from what you imagined, but different does not mean worse. Sometimes, different is exactly where your new beginning starts.